to another episode of Three Deep South College Football Podcast from the great state of Arkansas. Today, we're going to be kind of going over what I think is a very underrated slate of college football. We got a couple of really good rivalry games. We got a couple of weird games, that might get a little dicey for some teams that have bigger aspirations than week 2 win. Let's talk about kind of eating crow a little bit here. I've learned from watching back our last episode. If I say a team is going to dominate the other team, so far it's a kiss of death. Clemson, I said they were going to dominate LSU. They looked like crap that second half. And then Notre Dame turned it on in the second half, really made it. They gave themselves a chance to win. But Miami played the better game. Miami won. So
Mason, I really don't even want to talk about it. I was hoping you weren't going to bring it up because I don't mind eating crow, but with the way that we ate crow so bad on those two games, we also kind of got to eat a little crow on the Alabama-Florida State game too. But I think everybody in the country is kind of eating crow on that one, so maybe it's not just us.
Yeah, I'm not counting that because who expected a team that won 2 games last year to come, to beat Alabama like that? And not only beat
Nobody.
Alabama, they kind of thrashed Alabama. They gave more effort. They had a better game plan. Tommy Castellanos was everything he said he was and more. It was very – to be honest with you, I don't mind eating crow on that because I love to see Alabama lose. I really do.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. But yes, the Notre Dame one is the one that probably hurts me the most just because – and the Clemson one too, because if you follow us on TikTok, you definitely should. Those are 2 teams in LSU and Miami that I gave a lot of slack for and also took a lot of personal attacks over because I said they were going to be bad, and they kind of came out in week 1 and made me shut my mouth. So those sucked. Speaking about the Notre Dame game, because we didn't really get to talk about it, I just think Miami – Carson Beck's kind of everything that me and you didn't think he was going to be, but obviously something that Miami's seen in him. And he reminds me a lot of 2023 Carson Beck, and it kind of makes you think, was it a Carson Beck problem at Georgia, or was it an offensive coordinator and the consistency in dropping balls coming out of the receiver? Because, he looked good. He looked like a quarterback that would be a top 5 pick in the draft. Now, it's the first week, but Notre Dame didn't do anything that we expected them to do. They didn't run the ball. Jeremiah Love crashed my bet. I thought he was going to have over 1.5 touchdowns. He barely got over 1.5 touches. I just don't understand what Notre Dame wanted to do. Sides coming in from an Ohio State team that has a first-year starting quarterback that Ryan Day came out and said, hey, we're going to take it very vanilla, and we're not going to put too much on it because we don't want to kill his confidence. Notre Dame came out, first 3 plays were pass plays. Now, granted, it wasn't like he was really pushing the ball down the field, but you wouldn't think a Notre Dame team that has an experienced offensive line, that has a very trustworthy defense, and has a running back that's probably the best in the country and was a top 2 or 3 back last year in the country, you would think that they would really rely on him. And they run – he's obviously the clear number 1, Jeremiah Love is, but they have a number 2 that can carry the rock too. I think he carried it more than Jeremiah Love did. So it's not like they were really going to have to worry about, number of carries that he got really wearing down towards the end of the game because they could split carries. It just that game plan from an offensive perspective on Notre Dame's part really threw me in a loop because it didn't make any sense to me.
And I thought, going into that game, obviously I thought they were going to hand the ball off. I thought they were going to let their bell cow be a bell cow. And then I was like, surely he's injured, or they would be giving him the ball more. And then he started hurtling people. So he couldn't have been that banged up either way. So I didn't quite understand that I didn't understand that game plan. But they did make it a game. Obviously, you don't want to overreact. You don't want to say Notre Dame sucks, Texas sucks, Clemson sucks. But I will say this about Clemson. Obviously, Clemson has an issue with scaling to a team from the SEC for some reason. Their last 3 games, they are it's terrible. They haven't come close. They got beat by Georgia last year real handedly. They got beat by South Carolina at the end of the year. They lost to Texas in the playoff, and then they lost to LSU at home. I don't see that team being what I thought they would be.
Well, it's
Cade
kind of
Klubnik.
crazy.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. No, you're good. If I cut you off, you can go ahead. I didn't mean
Well,
to.
I was going to say Cade Klubnik. He just I don't know if it was a Cade Klubnik problem necessarily. They couldn't run the ball. Their offensive
Nope.
line, they got a lot of pressure on them, and they were terrible on third down. And that's kind of been the consistent thing with Clemson in these big games post COVID.
Yeah, and it's really weird because that was the conference that me and you talked about is like, okay, there's a clear cut number one, and all the other teams are fighting for two. Like now going into it, like there's not really a clear cut one because you have Miami that won. Florida State's probably the darling of the country right now that came out and just shattered Alabama. And then you have Clemson, obviously. Like you said, we're not going to write Clemson off, but those are the three teams that me and you kind of expected two of them to just be okay. They're going to be bounce back years. Miami's going to have a little bit of regression, but I mean, out of week one, as much as we can take out of that, those three teams did play big opponents. So it's easy to kind of loop them in a category and be like, okay, this is what they did versus this is what they did. And the ACC, it really opened it up. Georgia Tech is in that group. I think there's four teams in the ACC right now that you just don't know, and that's what the season is for. Is you're just going to have to let things play out the way they're supposed to.
Well, let's kind of get into our week 2 discussion here. Let's start off with the early slate here. A big game going on in Ames, Iowa versus Iowa State. Iowa's going into Rocco Beck's house. He's looked electric so far to start this year. This is going to be this is one of my favorite rivalries because it's played early. Every year it's played early, and it's a weird game every year. Let me pull up this real quick, but I think it was a stat that I read that like the home team has won the last I can't remember. It was like it was a certain stat that the home team had won like a certain number of them in a row. Let's kind of see here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, maybe I want to say Iowa State won last year, but that could have. You probably heard that leading into that game.
Okay. Actually, I got that wrong. The away team has won. Last 1, 2, 3, 4 in a row.
Yeah.
And Iowa State's kind of got a lot of momentum coming off that Kansas State win. I don't know who they played last week. They beat them like a drum, though.
I think.
And then Iowa, we kind of don't do what?
No, I was just gonna say Rocco Beck had like one incompletion, and it's like it doesn't matter who you play. Like one incompletion is one incompletion.
And so like we've seen Iowa State already on this stage a little bit with that game in Dublin. I don't know anything about Iowa, to be honest with you. I don't know anything about Iowa. But I can tell you this about Iowa. They still have Kirk Ferentz. They're probably going to try to run the ball. They're probably going to punt 10 times, and they're going to play solid defense. I don't know anything else about them.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much guaranteed. I know that they've had quarterback problems. Obviously, their offense has just been atrocious probably over the last I don't know, ever since we've been alive, ever since Kirk Ferentz has been there, they've had an offense problem. Obviously, they've always been able to run the ball, but they've never really been like a passing offense. Okay, like last week, they had a quarterback. He threw 15 passes. Now, like you're playing an inferior opponent, but still, I mean, 15 passes for 44 yards. I don't really think that they're going to light Iowa State up through the air. But, I mean, they did have a running back rush for 122 yards and 11 yards of carry. So I think that's Iowa's DNA. They're a lot like a Temu version of Michigan. They want to slow the game down. They're going to play crazy defense, and they're probably going to have a running back or two running backs that really know how to run the ball. And it's kind of polar opposite of what Iowa State likes to do. Iowa State likes to sling the ball around, really rely on Rocco Beck and those receivers to drive the ball down the field. So it's going to be one of those things like, obviously, you're going to watch the game. and you're going to say, okay, this team looks better than this team or vice versa. I think this is one of those games where you get to really watch coordinators versus head coaches really kind of play that chess match against each other, because one side of the ball wants to hurry up, score as fast as they can. The other side of the ball doesn't want the other team to have the ball more than they have to, and they really want to try to slow it down. That's kind of how I feel about the game. I think it's more of a pick 'em than anything. I think the spread's like 3.5, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yep, 3.5 Iowa State's way.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, going off Mason's data that he looked up, you would, I mean, put money on Iowa because over the last 4 years, the away team won. But the way Rockville Beck's playing this year, I would have to go with Iowa State personally.
I'm going to take the fun pick and take Iowa State as well. And what I mean by that, okay, the fun pick would be for Iowa to go into Ames and win the game, fun. But this is like something I just was thinking about as you were talking. Like, could you imagine being born in Iowa, right? And it's a situation where you're either an Iowa fan or you're an Iowa State fan. How could you pick Iowa? Like, you know what I mean? Like you got this team in Ames that's slinging the rock and having this like high flying offense and red and yellow. They have a million different uniforms, and Iowa runs the I form and punts the ball 10 times a game. Like,
I mean, I don't see how. I mean, unless you're a defensive player, I guess, then go to Iowa. Either a defensive player or a tight end, go to Iowa. But everybody else should go to Iowa State.
Or a punter,
because they're
fan of punting.
Yeah, their coach is extremely good at Iowa State. I like him. He's been interviewed for all kinds of jobs, and he's just turned it down. I think he's one of those coaches, kind of like a Dan Lanning, just waiting for that perfect job. But yeah, I'm going to go with Iowa State. You said you were going with Iowa State too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so everybody going off last week, bet on Iowa.
Bet on Iowa. Bet the house on it. Take out a credit line, put it all on Iowa.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's talk about another little in-state game here. We got Baylor traveling to the Dallas-Fort Worth area to play SMU. The spread on this game is SMU 2.5. The total is 63.5. I love that total. I think this game is going to be a high-scoring game. You're going to see it come close to that 63.5. I have Baylor winning this game, though. I know Baylor kind of got out-athleted last week against Auburn, but SMU's not going to have that same sort of athlete. I think it's going to be a very up and down game, like up and down the field track meet type of game. What's his name? Kevin Jennings. I like Kevin Jennings a lot on SMU's side. I got a gut feeling on this one. I don't know anything. I like Sawyer Robertson a little bit more, I think. I just feel like Baylor's going to go in there and win this game. And I think Baylor's a good team. I think Baylor's a really good team, actually.
Yeah, I like Baylor. I'm kind of the same way. I really like Baylor. If people watched the Auburn-Baylor game, Baylor didn't really – yes, they got out-athleted, but other than that, like they ran the ball well. They threw the ball well. They held Auburn to 108 yards. Obviously, Jackson Arnold rushed for like 140. And I just feel like if they play Auburn at the end of the season, I think it's a closer game for one. And for two, like if you watch the game, it was a weird game. They had kickoff returns for touchdown. Like it was just one of those weird things to where I don't feel like Baylor – I feel like you said it perfectly. I don't feel like Baylor got outplayed. I feel like they got out-athleted. I just don't feel like they have the athletes to keep up with Auburn. But I really like them against SMU. Obviously, SMU is kind of like that darling dark horse to make it back to the college football playoffs because they did it last year. They have the quarterback, and they're really highly rated in that Big 12 conference. But Baylor, they were one of my sleeper teams. I feel like they have enough athletes in the Big 12 to compete. And last year, it seemed like they really got it clicking to become a good program. Now, obviously, we'll just have to see. I really like their quarterback. I mean, he threw for like 400 yards last week against Auburn. So they have the offensive power, kind of like you said. Like they have people, and SMU has people. If it was me, I would choose Baylor. I would almost choose their money line, honestly. I think they're going to win. I don't care about the spread, but then I would also take the over. If you could parlay those together, I feel like you could make some pretty decent money out of that game, just because I think 63.5 is I mean, that's 31 points apiece. That's hardly anything. I mean, so with two high-powered offenses and teams that gave up points last week, I mean, SMU gave up 13 points to East Texas A&M. So I don't really know when they gave up 10 in the fourth. So obviously that's kind of garbage time. But
Garbanzo time.
Yeah. So, but I mean, obviously SMU hasn't. I mean, it's the Big 12, so that conference isn't known for like crazy defensive play.
They're in the,
so
they're in the ACC.
Are they? See,
SMU's in the ACC.
Yeah. It just I always think they're in the Big 12 because it's Texas team. It's like all the Big 12 team. Anyways, like I mean, even ACC, it's not like they're known for defense either. So it's like I feel like it's going to be one. I mean, I could see this game going into like double overtimes, like 70. 80 points scored, honestly. I mean, they both have two high-powered quarterbacks, and they both like to run high-powered offenses. It's the complete opposite of Iowa. They want to throw the ball downfield. They want to score fast. They don't really care about defense. I mean, until it comes to the fourth quarter and they have to get a stop. That's personally how I feel.
Well, and I think if Baylor doesn't learn from last week with Jackson Arnold running all over them, and they let Kevin Jennings kind of do the same thing, Baylor will lose if that happens again. But surely they sure that up. But either way, I think SMU is going to score a lot of points. I think Baylor's going to score a lot of points. I think this might be the first team to 50. Might win this game.
That's kind of what I see too.
It's going to be a really exciting one. Do what?
Yeah. I said that's kind of what I see too. It kind of sucks because they play at 11:32, so you're going to have 3 games you have to choose from. You have Iowa, and it's kind of funny because they're all totally different. You got Iowa versus Iowa State, probably going to be low scoring, very defense oriented, really chess matchy. And then you have Baylor versus SMU, which is probably going to be high scoring, like first 1 to 50, like you said. And then probably the next game we're going to get into, you have Illinois versus Duke, which is kind of that meet in the middle. Like you're going to have defense and offense all at the same time.
Well, let's kind of get into that Illinois-Duke game. Duke has the quarterback from Oregon State, I believe, is where he was at last year. They look good week 1, but they're playing against a super experienced Illinois team with Luke Altmaier, obviously Brett Bielema, Barry Lundy's their offensive coordinator. He's returning. I'm going to lean Illinois, but I do think that this game is in a weird spot because – who goes to Duke? You know what I mean? Like, that's just odd. Like, that's an odd non-conference game to go on the road. And Brett Bielema has been known to lose games like this. I know as an Arkansas fan, Brett Bielema's known to lose games early in the season on the road to teams he should beat. It would not surprise me. I'm leaning Illinois-ish. I'm not comfortable about that. That one will not be in my parlay.
Well, what really caught me off guard is like, you look at it and it's like, oh, Illinois is 11th. Duke, they looked okay last week, but they played Wake Forest, which is probably one of the worst Power 5 or Power 4 conference teams that you have. Them, Mississippi State, and I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I just don't personally like Wake Forest. I don't feel like they're somebody that should. I don't feel like they're what they used to be. When they had, who did they have? He transferred to Notre Dame.
I don't know. I remember him being like a model, but that's it.
Yeah, and he was crazy. He was on the TV show or the Netflix series Quarterback One. Anyways, I'm kind of going off on a tangent. Like, I just don't feel like Wake Forest is like. I feel like they're a step above somebody like a Memphis or somebody like that. And it went down to the wire. But I kind of see what you're saying. Like, I could see Illinois kind of choking this game away. But the spread on it's like 6.5. Which I thought that was low. I figured it would be like 14, 12, somewhere around there. But I guess obviously Vegas, they won a bunch of money off me and you last week, Mason. So obviously they know what they're talking about. I personally just like Illinois. I think the veteran leadership on this team, the returning quarterback, the production they have returning on defensive side of the ball, I feel like even if Brett Bielema calls a bad game, it's going to kind of lead them through the weeds to beat Duke. It might be ugly. It might be like a 3-point win, but I think they're going to beat Duke. I mean, I hope to God they do. Anyways, but I'm with you. Like, I'm not putting a single dollar on that game.
Yeah, it's definitely not my favorite one. I'll probably keep up with it, but it probably won't be the prettiest of games to watch. And then we got a 2:30 game here. This one's kind of interesting to me, just because who the teams are in a sense. Oregon is
You
hosting
talking?
Oklahoma. Do what now?
Yeah, I
Oregon's
thought you were
hosting
going to.
Oklahoma State.
Yeah,
Zane Flores is the quarterback for Oklahoma State. They had a bad year last year. Mike Gundy doesn't usually have 2 bad years in a row. I do think Oklahoma State looked improved last week. Of course, they were playing nobody, but they just
yeah,
looked like they had more like structure from what I've seen. I only watched the highlights. Obviously, I didn't watch Oklahoma State beat some nobody. But again, they're playing an Oregon team though that just come off undefeated regular season Big Ten champion. But they lost
yeah,
a lot. I think this is our first look at what Oregon, is kind of working with this year. It'll
yeah.
be. I'm interested in it just because we don't know much about Eugene and what's going on there right now. And it's a big 2:30 slot game. Power 4 school coming into their house.
Yeah, I know Dante Moore, Oregon's quarterback. I know he looked really good last week. Obviously, like you said, I mean, they played nobody. But if people have been keeping up with college football kind of like I have, there's a little animosity there in between the two head coaches.
Dan Lanning and Mike
One's
Gundy.
yeah, Dan Lanning or Mike Gundy came out and said something about how they're pretty much on two different levels because Oklahoma State's only spending like $7 million over the last 3 years, and Oregon spent this, and it's just this whole thing, and it's just kind of sounds like a big excuse train to me. But I'm interested in the game. I think it's good because you get that out of conference, like Oklahoma State is somewhat of a decent team. And yeah, they're probably not going to beat Oregon, but they're at least going to put something on paper to be like, okay, well, Oregon did beat Oklahoma State by X amount of points, or dang, Oklahoma State really held Oregon to X amount of points. I feel like it's going to be a good game to watch, but I could also see it being one of those games that you turn off at halftime because it's really not worth watching after that. It's going to kind of be like it might be good for a whole game, or it might only be good for about a quarter and a half.
Well, the thing about Mike Gundy is Mike Gundy's always going to make headlines, so
Yeah.
that doesn't surprise me at all. I don't know. You're probably right. It probably will be a game that doesn't really like. It's probably not going to be worth watching. It probably will be the better game on at 2:30. Well, no, never mind.
No, dude, that's what I'm saying. Like, I just want to talk about this real quick. Obviously, last week was like absolute cinema. You had games on for 4 days. You had Ohio State, and then you had all these other games that were on. LSU, Clemson, Ohio State, Texas, Alabama, Florida State. Like, you had like a whole day of games, but like, I'm looking at this 2:30 matchup. We just got done talking about the 11, and there's 3 games on there that are all probably going to be pretty good games. And then you come down here to 2:30, and I see 3 right now that I'm probably going to want to watch. So it's like everybody talks crap about weeks, 2 and 3, because a lot of these teams aren't really playing too many people. But what I've noticed, especially going into that 12-team playoff, like a lot of these teams are scheduling more out of conference cross country games instead of scheduling your Cal Poly and stuff like that, if that makes sense. Because we have the Oklahoma State and Oregon game, and then we have the Ole Miss Kentucky game.
Mm-hmm.
And then at 3:15 we have the Florida versus South Florida game, which we'll probably talk about that after we talk about this one. But that's a game because if you watched South Florida last week, they absolutely skull drug Boise State.
Mm-hmm. They did. Let's talk about Ole Miss Kentucky first. That's the other 2:30 game. Oh, by the way, I'm picking Oregon to beat Oklahoma State. Just before we get into this, I didn't make an actual prediction on that. Taking Oregon to win that game. But talking about Ole Miss Kentucky, Ole Miss last year, obviously, they are a Kentucky loss away from the playoff.
Yeah.
Now, Austin Simmons looked really good last week. Again, it was against nobody. Their defense didn't look terrible. I'm kind of waiting to see this game to kind of see what I think about Arkansas playing them in week 3. But Ole Miss on paper should beat Kentucky by 50. They should. They should have beat them by 50
Yes.
last year. This is
Yeah.
kind of a vengeance game, but does that emotion maybe play into like a sleepy Ole Miss? Like maybe not sleepy, but maybe they overdo it and they come out flat.
Yeah, it's weird because like Ole Miss, obviously, they're a team that has felt like they've got screwed out of a lot of stuff, but because they're loud. They're so loud and they're so obnoxious sometimes that it's like I like Ole Miss. I want to root for Ole Miss. They're fun to watch. They always have high-powered offense, but his name's skipping my mind. What's their coaches? I should know that.
Kiffin?
Yeah, there you go. Lane Kiffin. Like he's just so obnoxious and he's just a complainer. Like I feel like he just complains, but then he goes out and loses to like a Kentucky, and it's like, dude, shut up. You don't have anything to complain about. Like you didn't make the playoffs because you lost to Kentucky. Like what do you want? What do you want here? Like I don't understand. But like last week, obviously they beat Georgia State by a bunch, but their quarterback Austin Simmons did look good, but he also threw 2 picks, and they were ugly picks. They were not good picks. Obviously, he ran the ball decent too. I'm kind of with you. I'm ready to see what they are and what they can be. But I mean, obviously, Kentucky did something right last year, and that was at Ole Miss. This is at Kentucky. Does Kentucky just have Lane Kiffin's number? That's something that I'm excited to see. Kentucky, they do have talent, but they went to the wire with Toledo last week. And it's like, I mean, yeah, they can play a little bit, but I mean, I don't know. They gave up a bunch of passing yards last week. Their quarterback, Zach Calzada, which has been in the league for like forever. I think he was in the same draft class as it's something crazy. Dude's like 27 years old. Like he came in, I think he was playing college with Trevor Lawrence. He was in college when Trevor Lawrence was in college. So it's like, dude's got experience. I don't know if that's good experience or bad experience, but like he only threw for 85 yards last week in an interception. And yeah, they rushed the ball okay, but they gave up 270 yards through the air against Toledo. So if Austin Simmons did that last week, I mean, he should have a field day this week. I don't know what the spread is. But I would almost lean Ole Miss because I want to say it was pretty close. It was like 10?
8.5.
8.5. Yeah, I would fire the Ole Miss bet on the over. Like on the point spread, cover, everything.
I'm going to say this almost as comedy, but also almost as like serious. I think Ole Miss is going to kill them. Now, like I said, like I prefaced, that is the kiss of death so far. But I think Ole Miss is going to kill Kentucky. I don't think Kentucky's fielding the team this year that is going to compete in the SEC very often.
And
I think it's going to be a great example of why and the problems that they're going to face probably all year.
Yeah, and I think I might even fire. I said last week I wasn't betting anymore just because, like, obviously we did not bet good last week. But that's almost a bet. I would probably alt-line it and favor Ole Miss by like 12.5, honestly. I mean, and then take Austin Simmons on the over passing yards for sure.
I like that bet, honestly. So let's kind of get into the 3:15 South Florida. Obviously, their quarterback last week looked really good. I'm trying to remember his first name, Byron Brown. Last week he had a great game, ran the ball all over Boise, threw for 210 yards. They are kind of rolling in with some momentum, but they got to go into Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. They got to go into the Swamp. They got to play a team that everyone's excited about. They got to play DJ Lagway and the Florida Gators. Right now that spread's sitting at 17.5 Florida's way. I think Florida's going to kill them. I know it's the kiss of death. I think you're really going to see why DJ Lagway has been talked about as this Heisman contender and all this stuff. I think Florida's just a different beast. And last week, South Florida kind of shot themselves in the foot at points, but they were able to make up for it with their defense against Boise State. The athletes they're about to see are not going to be anywhere close to or the athletes they saw last week aren't going to be anywhere close to what you're about to see this week. I think this is going to be a proper ass whooping, if I had to guess.
See, I'm going to stay away from the bets on this one just because, like, I definitely could see the game going where it's just a total ass kicking and, like, South Florida doesn't have anything for them. But I also could see it going the way of, like, South Florida's coach was, they prepped for Boise State last week, and they really came out and kicked their ass. Well, that was something, and their coach was probably, this is a playoff team, blah, blah. You need to go in there and beat that. Just building their heads up and told them they needed to work. Well, that gave that team a lot of confidence going in there and beating them like that, or hosting them and beating them like that. And teams like this are scary because it's almost like that Vanderbilt was last year, where, like, after Vanderbilt beat Alabama, every big team they played them super close. So I could see this game being closer than 17.5 because all it takes is Southern Florida's quarterback to get loose a couple times, throw a few deep shots down the field, and the next thing you know, it's 24-24 going into the fourth quarter, and Florida's down on themselves because they gave up 24 to South Florida, and then South Florida's up on themselves because they're in a dogfight with Florida. And, I mean, I could see it going down to the wire, but I could also see Florida really putting South Florida back and being like, hey, bud, stay down south. Just know who the big dog is in the state.
Yeah, and I think there's not really much to talk about that game. That game's kind of a wait and see, but I do think it's going to be I think it's exciting because you have two athletic quarterbacks. I think that's more what you're looking at is the quarterbacks because they're pretty much the same style of quarterback. Yeah. I think DJ Lagway definitely has. You're going to see what you want to see from him this game, is what I think.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the 4:00 game real quick in Little Rock, actually. Now, this one isn't necessarily a big one on paper. It's more of just like the historic significance. Arkansas and Arkansas State have never played in football. I think they've played in basketball, maybe in NIT one year. But it's a big deal for the Arkansas State fans. They finally get a shot at the big school in the state. But it's the last game at War Memorial. It's a historic venue within the state of Arkansas. If you didn't know, it's because they didn't always have lights in Fayetteville, and before the interstate was put in up there, it was hard to get to Fayetteville. So they played a lot of their big night games in Little Rock all the way up until I was young. They played a lot of games in Little Rock, and then so this might be the final year, and they're playing an in-state school. What I kind of expect from this game is I expect Arkansas State to be outclassed. Taylor Green last week, those 6 touchdowns, looked really confident. The defensive line looks shaky against a bad Alabama A&M team. Alabama A&M kind of shot themselves in the foot, or they probably would have scored more than 7 points. I think a lot of that stuff gets corrected. I think Arkansas goes out of Little Rock and they beat the heck out of Arkansas State. For me, hopefully, because I hate Arkansas State. I know that's probably a crazy thing to hear because no one hates Arkansas State. I hate Arkansas State. One of my least favorite programs in the entire country. So hopefully we get everything I want and we kill them is what I want.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's so weird because Arkansas did look good last week, but then there was times where they didn't. And I feel like Arkansas is definitely going to win the game. I think it would be dumb for me to say they're not going to win the game. But I almost think that, like, Arkansas State, obviously they won their first game, but they could not win a game for the rest of the season. And if they win this game, I feel like there's so much, not on the Arkansas side, there's just so much bragging rights that could come from this on the Arkansas State side. Because you look at it, if Arkansas wins this game, there's no amount of points that they can win this game by, and people are going to be like, dang, did you see Arkansas beat Arkansas State? But if Arkansas State at least keeps it close or somehow miraculously beats Arkansas, that's going to be the talk of the state for, years to come. Really. Forever. And Arkansas State didn't look bad last week. Obviously, I didn't watch it. They played Southeast Missouri State, so it wasn't like they were really playing anybody. But their quarterback only had 10 incompletions, threw for 275 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I mean, I wouldn't say that he's dual threat. He got sacked a bunch, so that kind of tells you a sign of their offensive line and pass coverage. But they rushed the ball okay. I wouldn't say that they just their quarterback. I was on Southeast Missouri. Their quarterback threw for 345 yards with 3 touchdowns with only like 8 incompletions, and they rushed the ball okay. I wouldn't say that they just really like ran all over them. Obviously, they like passing the ball a lot more. I feel like it could get scary for Arkansas because it's going to be kind of like a road game. There's going to be so much around it for Arkansas State to win that game that I feel like this is really going to be like Arkansas State Super Bowl, which is scary for an Arkansas team that it's not like they're super high in blue chip ratio. Yeah, they're more talented than Arkansas State by a pretty wide margin, but we've seen teams that aren't as talented as certain teams come in with a chip on their shoulder and really want to prove something, and that's what they do. And I feel like Arkansas State's going to want to come into this game and really prove something. So this is the game where it's like you're going to look out for trick plays. You're going to look out for this. You're going to look out for that. Because, yeah, Arkansas State plays Iowa State next week, but you can't tell me that the people up in Jonesboro wouldn't rather Arkansas State beat Arkansas versus Arkansas State being Iowa State.
Yeah, obviously this game means a lot more to residents of Jonesboro, people that went to A-State. You know, in the state of Arkansas, even if you went to A-State, you're an Arkansas. You're a Hog fan. You cheer for the University of Arkansas. There is a small pocket, a small, loud minority of Arkansas State fans that as soon as Arkansas is bad, Arkansas State would beat Arkansas. They love to say that. They love to say that during Chad Morris. It was their favorite thing in the entire world to say it. You said that?
I was saying that. I was talking. But I'm not an Arkansas State fan, so I was kind of just doing it just to troll people because I thought it was funny. But
they might have been because we were terrible.
There was a few years in there where Arkansas State was dirty when they had McKissick and like all them, and like I was like, yeah, dude, I don't know. Arkansas probably wouldn't beat them this year. But that was just me talking. I don't really care. I don't care if Arkansas State goes 0-12 and Arkansas goes 0-12. I mean, obviously, I don't want that to happen. But you're an Arkansas fan, so you hate to hear that because Arkansas State's kind of like that little brother that like there for a little bit. You know, the little brother was lifting weights and you weren't doing anything, and little brother seemed like he got a little bit bigger than you. And I think this is going to be the first time that either big brother gets to put little brother in the seat and feed him his Cheerios, or the little brother's going to let him know, like, hey, don't forget I'm here.
Well, I think for a lot of those Arkansas State fans, it's just a point of talking. They don't actually believe that. They know what would happen. I'm going to say 10 out of 10 years most of the time. If you exclude Chad Morris and John L. Smith, there's not a year that Arkansas State would beat Arkansas. But they love to say that. They loved. Oh my gosh, it made them so happy to be like, we're better than Arkansas. We're better than. And that's whenever I started to hate them. But now that the game's finally being played on the field, I cannot wait to see Arkansas and Arkansas State play.
What channel is that on, Mason? Are
the SEC regular Network Plus? Probably. It's not on television.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm going to try to watch it. I'm going to try to fit because I would like to watch it. It's just like a state game. It's like, yeah, I don't really care, obviously, like who wins, but I would like to watch it just for the aspect of like it's just a cool game. Like obviously you want Arkansas to win, but like for somebody like me, like it's just a cool game to watch.
I don't want us to win. I want us to beat them by 1,000,000.
That makes sense.
Let's get on to our next game here. This is another big rivalry game, an actual rivalry, not this pseudo rivalry. This is a real rivalry that's been going on since before college football. Kansas and Missouri play this year. They play at
Yep.
2:30, ESPN 2. The game's in Columbia. I'll tell you what, I will never be a bigger Jayhawk fan than I'm going to be this week. Jalen Daniels, the Rock Chalk. I hate Missouri with a burning passion in my heart and soul. Their backup Penn State quarterback sucks. Kansas all the way, dude. I would hammer. Oh my gosh. If a Missouri fan had the nerve to like actually show themselves, I would get them down on the ground. And in Step Brothers, whenever the kids make Will Ferrell eat the white dog poop, I'd make them eat Kansas Jayhawk dog poop. I mean, I hate Missouri with all my. Oh my gosh, I'm cheering for Kansas hard this week.
Do you hate Missouri more than Arkansas State, or are they about the same? You just
I hate everyone. I hate everyone equally. But Arkansas State and Missouri are on a special pedestal.
I got you.
In hell, in my heart.
I got you. That makes sense. Yeah, man. I don't know. It's a weird game because Bo Parbula, I'm gonna butcher that name, but that's the quarterback that Mason's talking about for Missouri. He didn't look bad last week. I wouldn't say that he looked great. Missouri really didn't look great. Kansas looked okay. I really like Kansas's quarterback, Jalen Daniels, not Jaden. It's Jalen. For everybody that wants to act like we don't know, it's Jalen. He's really good. He's a good quarterback. Kansas, I feel like they're up and coming. Over the last probably 3 or 4 years, people have really started recognizing them more as a college football program. Not as much as a basketball program, obviously, but used to, 5, 6, 7 years ago, it was only basketball. Like, they didn't even care about football. And now it kind of seems like their football program's kind of building up. They're starting to really attack the transfer portal. They're starting to get some people in there. I don't think they're enough for Missouri, but I also am not betting on this game because I don't feel like either team is just extremely better than the other one.
I think Kansas is going to beat them like a drum. Not like blow them out, but I think Kansas is just going to win by enough to make me happy, and that could be 1 point. That's fine.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
I want to see all the Columbia, Missouri. They're a Big 12 team in the SEC, regardless. Just based on their geography's weird, the way they talk is weird. Their stadium looks like a huge Waffle House. They have rocks in their end zone, which is like such a Big 12 thing to do. Their coach is insufferable. I hate him. And he's from Arkansas, and I hate that guy. So yeah, I hope Kansas rips their heart out. I hope Kansas beats them on a 70-yard field goal, like the longest field goal ever, and they're like, no way. And it goes in. I hope it bounces off all 3 bars and goes in, and every Missouri fan on the face of the earth is on suicide watch on Monday, is what I hope. But
that's granted.
Just kidding. I don't want y'all to kill yourselves. That was a total joke. But
granted.
I want y'all's hearts to be just beating out of y'all's chests, falling to the floor. I hate Missouri. Anyways.
Yeah, I don't really like Missouri either, honestly. Ever since they beat Ohio State in that bullcrap, what was it, the Sugar Bowl, when we played with our 3rd-string quarterback, and it's like, dude, whatever. Congratulations. You beat us.
And okay, we got one more game to talk about before we talk about. Well, no, we got 2 more games to talk about before we talk about the big one on Saturday. 6:30 p.m. ESPN 2. The Arizona State Sun Devils travel to Starkville. I think this is an interesting game, not because Arizona State shouldn't win, but because last year we didn't know much about Arizona State. We didn't know that they were going to go to the playoff and have that, performance against Texas. We didn't know about Kim Scadaboo. We didn't know about Sam Leavitt. We didn't know about Kenny Dillingham. We didn't know. And they played a close game with Mississippi State at home in Tempe. Now they got to go and they got to deal with those annoying cowbells. Mississippi State, 2nd year of their head coach, Jeff Lebby. Maybe they're trending upward a little bit. This could be a game where Mississippi State kind of throws all the chips in, because this is a big win if Mississippi State wins for their program. I mean, they throw all the chips in on this game, kind of roll the ball out there, let's see what happens type of deal. I could see Mississippi State, I could see a world where they win this game, but I could also see it where You see why Arizona State went to the playoff last year and why Mississippi State won, 3 or 4 games?
Yeah, I think Arizona State's probably gonna. I think early the fans are gonna kind of be involved. I could see going into halftime being like a 17-10 game favoring Arizona State. But I think Arizona State's just returning so much, and I feel like their quarterback's good enough, and their receivers are good enough, and their defense is good enough to just kind of scratch away at Mississippi State until the fans just kind of die out. I think Arizona State's just too good for Mississippi State to hang with them. I personally just don't see. I mean, I said this last week about Alabama and Florida State, but I personally just don't see a world where Mississippi State beats Arizona State. And this would probably be the game. This one and probably the next game we're going to talk about. This is probably one of the games I'm going to pray for because I already know if Mississippi State beats Arizona State, all the SEC diehard fans are going to be so insufferable that I don't know. I'm probably just going to wear headphones for the rest of the week until all the rednecks forget about it because it's going to be awful. Talking about, our worst team in our conference beat the Big 12's best team, whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. So I'm really hoping that Arizona State pulls it out, personally. And I think they're going to. I don't think they're going to lose. I think I'm kind of with you. It might be close, but I think in the second half, they're probably going to pull away from it.
Well, the reason why I'm kind of higher on Mississippi State in this game than I probably will be for the rest of the year is last year, I think Arizona State was a better team last year. And they went to overtime at home. Mississippi State's going to be a little bit better than they were last year. Like I said, I think Arizona State's worse than they were last year. So I don't think Arizona State's going to lose. I'm not predicting that. I'm taking Arizona State in this game. But I could see where that kind of shows up again. Mississippi State comes out emotional, fired up. This is chips in on this one.
Yeah.
And makes this a very interesting game. Let's kind of talk about our next game here. Vanderbilt at Virginia Tech. I think this kills the Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia, all that momentum they think they have in Nashville. I don't know. They won 6 games last year. I think Kyron Drones kills them. I think they win this game. I think they win it handily. Vanderbilt going into Lane Stadium at 6:30, Enter Sandman, they're going to be packed out.
Yeah.
What does Diego Pavia think is going to happen? The spread on this game is Virginia Tech 2.5. I like Virginia Tech by 10, probably.
Yeah, that's probably going to be my parlay of the weekend. We talk about it a lot. We probably will. I would say my parlay of the weekend, I'm taking Ole Miss alt money line, so I'm probably going to alt it and maybe bump it up to 13, 14. And then I'm going to take Virginia Tech alt line probably up to 6.5 maybe. Because what Virginia Tech, it was kind of like the game earlier that we talked about with Baylor and Auburn. If you watch them versus South Carolina, they really took South Carolina down to the wire. I mean, it didn't look like that on the game, but there was just some weird plays in there that really boosted South Carolina up, and it showed why LaNorris Sellers is a top quarterback in this coming up year's draft class. But they played a really hard-fought game, and I think South Carolina is significantly better than Vanderbilt, and I feel like Virginia Tech, it's at home. They lost the game, but they played good, so I feel like their coaches are really going to tear in their ass, and it gives them motivation to be better, and I feel like they're really going to take all that anger out on Vanderbilt, which is not going to be good because they pretty much got to see Vanderbilt last week just with better athletes, a runaround quarterback that likes to throw the ball, a defense that's halfway decent but not anywhere close to South Carolina. So it's like they got to play the good version last week, and now they're getting to play a Wish Temu 3/4 of the price version of South Carolina with a shorter quarterback that's not nearly as athletic.
Well, and I do like Clark Lee, and I do think Diego Pavia is talented, and I kind of like the momentum Vanderbilt has, but I think you have to be realistic about your progression. Yeah. Last year, you did beat Virginia Tech. If you're Vanderbilt, you did beat them.
Yeah.
but like you beat them at home, and they kind of punched Virginia Tech in the mouth, and they kind of took control of that game, and it was just like out of nowhere. But Virginia Tech was kind of disappointing all year last year. They didn't look disappointing last week, and they got out athleted. Really, they got out Lenore Sellard and out Dylan Stewart. I mean, that was pretty much the difference in that game. Nick Harbor did make a couple plays in that game. I was actually really impressed with South Carolina last week. Like, more impressed than I thought I would be going into the season. And I think they showed, like, I had them winning like 8 games. I still feel confident in that, but like I feel better about it now from what I've seen from South Carolina. So I don't think it was a Virginia Tech problem. And this is kind of a must win for Virginia Tech. Like, if you lose this home game in the non-conference, you go 0-2 in the non-conference right here, and then you got to go into conference play. Like, you're a season that could wind up being like 8-4 for Virginia Tech. You know, if they lose this game, could be 7-5, 6-6. So like, this is kind of a must-win in a sense. Like, not must-win for you to go to the playoff because you're not going either way, but like a must-win in like how your season's going to kind of go. Like, this game is going to say a lot about Virginia Tech. And I think that they're going to handle it very, very well.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I'm going to take the alt line on it. I might parlay them and bet like $5 or $6 on them, and the payout's going to be okay. I don't know. Something I've seen in Virginia Tech, it kind of made me a lot higher on Virginia Tech. And maybe I had unrealistic expectations about South Carolina because I only got to watch them in big games last year. But I was very underwhelmed by what South Carolina did last week. And I don't know, maybe it's because I had kind of an image of what they could be because Lenora Sellers great, Dylan Stewart great, but their wide receivers were just okay. There were some drops by their wide receiver that's like ridiculously fast, and I know he's Harbor. I know he's focusing more on football, but it's like, I don't know. I just expected them to really compete at the top of the SEC, and they still could do that, but there were some things there that I've seen that could cause problems later on down the road.
Speaking about Harbor real quick before we get into Michigan, Oklahoma, I thought Harbor wind up playing a lot better game than what he played a lot of last year. He got robbed on a touchdown. I don't know what the NCAA, the SEC, I don't know what constitutes a catch anymore. I have no idea.
No, I don't either.
I don't know. Because he caught that ball. That was a touchdown. And if that counts, it's 2 touchdowns for him, a lot more yards. I thought he played a really good game, especially coming from last year where he was consistently disappointing. And I can see why everyone was hyped on him last year. So, like, I did think, like, I feel better about South Carolina than I did, but I never had them winning the SEC in a sense. I do think that, like, based on that game, I just feel better about, like, going to LSU, playing Clemson again. They got to play Alabama. They got to play Ole Miss. Like, I feel better about those games for them. But let's get into Michigan at Oklahoma. Right now, the spread's Oklahoma 5.5, over under 45. I hate that line. This is going to be a low-scoring game, in my opinion. I don't think John Mateer. I don't think that offensive line looked very great last week. And
no,
I think Michigan looked good last week, and I think Michigan has a lot of steam rolling. They got this NCAA monkey off their back. I think Michigan's going to win this game. I'm just going to say it straight out. I think Bryce Underwood looked decent last week. I looked at the highlights. Like, he obviously looked like a freshman, like a true freshman, but I liked him, and I know that that's a lot to pick him to go into Norman. It's going to be a hostile night game, probably biggest game. That's the biggest game of the day, biggest game of the week. But I think I like Michigan to go in that game and control, get pressure on John Mateer, run the ball well, set Bryce Underwood up for success. And I think Michigan goes into Norman and beats Oklahoma by 3-4 points, maybe.
Yeah. This game kind of puts me in a predicament because I was really high on Oklahoma, like coming into the season. Obviously, I was high on Oklahoma, and I hate Michigan. But I'm kind of with you, man. I think Michigan's going to win this game. John Mateer, he looked good last week. He only had 7 incompletions, but Oklahoma struggled to run the ball. And I don't think going up against a Michigan team, you can struggle to run the ball. I worry about them. They weren't good on third down. They only put up 35 against Illinois State, which, I mean, I didn't really watch that game, so I don't really know what the highlights were. I know John Mateer looked okay. Obviously, he threw an interception, which is never good against a team like that, but he only had 7 incompletions. But he wasn't as dual threat as I thought he would be, which really kind of worries me because I feel like that's what I was kind of banking on Oklahoma being so good was because of what he was last year. I'm kind of with you. I see Michigan winning this game. I just feel like their identity plays well for a freshman quarterback to go into a game like this, kind of play like Julian Sayin did last week, throw just enough to win, mainly rely on your run game and your defense to win you this game. And also what I've heard from some people, Norman is a great place to like go play and like go visit, and like it's a cool stadium. But maybe this is different now, but from what I've heard, like it's not really that intimidating of an atmosphere to go into. It can get loud, but I've heard it's not like what you would expect it to be, like a Oregon or a Washington or a, even a Texas or an Arkansas when they get really hyped up. I've heard Norman's just like an okay atmosphere for a visiting team to come in and play at. It's not like, one of your big schools that makes it really hard on a freshman quarterback. Now, I could stand corrected, but this game, like, it's not like the Texas versus Oklahoma game or like an Oklahoma versus Nebraska game. Like, there's really no rich history in between these two schools, so it's not like there's not like some out of conference like crazy rivalry between Oklahoma and Michigan. So I don't know what, like, obviously fans are going to get excited because it's a 15 versus 18 matchup, but like there's not going to be like that animosity towards the other team, kind of like we had a little bit last week, or like Oklahoma or like Notre Dame versus Miami, convicts versus Catholics. There was history there, Texas versus Ohio State. There's history there all the way back to like 2005. So it's like there's history in those games. I don't really feel like there's much history in this game. So I wonder if Oklahoma's fan base is really going to stay in tuned with the game and even be a loud fan base at that point, because like this game really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things.
From what I understand from last year, Oklahoma kind of got their eyes open to what a big venue is actually like, because you got to think, I mean, prior to them coming to the SEC, their toughest game wasn't going to Texas because they play them in the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah.
So they go to Baylor, they go to Kansas State. I mean, Iowa State can get kind of rowdy, but like I think it kind of opened them up a little bit to what it's going to be like. And from what I heard, they did improve it. I do think that there is going to be a lot of energy in this game because it is kind of like Oklahoma feels like they need to have like a coming out party in a sense. Like they had a bad year last year. Everyone was kind of crapping on them. So I do think there's going to be energy. I just think Michigan's going to do what Michigan does. And I think it's going to be terrible for Ohio State fans to watch because you're going to have to look at this and be like, dang, that defense looks good. Dang, that running back looks, or that run game looks good. Dang, that quarterback looks good. And I think that's a message to like Penn State. That's a message to Oregon. That's a message to Ohio State. That's a message to a lot of them, because I think this is also a Michigan coming out party of like, hey, this monkey's off our back. We got a quarterback now. Like this ain't what it was last year, type of deal.
Yeah, I agree. I just think I'm kind of with you. I think Oklahoma is just going to really struggle to stop that run game that Michigan has, and I feel like Bryce Underwood is a good enough freshman quarterback that like even if he makes a few mistakes, he still has the arm talent to make enough throws to open that box up to where Michigan's going to be able to run all over Oklahoma. Now, I hope I'm wrong because I really do like Oklahoma, and I think they have the potential to be a dark horse in the SEC just because Venable's defense is just crazy. But I think it's going to take a Kyler Murray type season from Mateer to get them to that level.
And I think this is going to be a very ugly game, though, too. Like the 45, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
over under. Yeah, 45.5. I'm willing to take that under. I don't think either team gets to 20. Because I think Oklahoma's defense is good. So I do think that they're also going to put pressure on Bryce Underwood. I just don't see John Mateer putting a lot of pressure on the Michigan defense. But one more thing. I don't know if anyone else witnessed this last week, but as I was watching that Notre Dame Miami game, there were no commercials. It would just so where a commercial should be, it would just pan to the Miami crowd, right? And we talked about this was a rivalry, historic rivalry game. Miami's home field sucks. It is awful. It is not exciting.
It's it's the Miami Dolphins stadium.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even have their own stadium. And that's where you get the difference between college atmosphere versus NFL atmosphere, even down to the stadiums and the way that they're constructed.
Well, they didn't even in between. Okay, my experience I got a lot of experience going to venues. In between timeouts, they bring people out on the field. They do cool stuff on the board. They have chants. They have songs. They have all this stuff. Every time it would cut to a commercial, it was a lot of this from the Miami fans. They would just be
and they were winning. They were winning the whole game.
And it was I was severely disappointed in that home field. That was embarrassing to me. I don't know if anyone else got to see that.
I watched the game, but I don't remember. I don't know. I know I've watched games before where it kind of shows you the stadium zoomed out and you don't catch the commercials, but I've never seen one like that. I can't remember if there was commercials on my broadcast or not. I want to say there was, or I would have remembered something like that, but that is really weird. And that kind of shows you a testament of college football is college football, not only because of the fans, but because of the schools and what they do. And maybe that's kind of why Miami can't do too much, is because it's not even their stadium.
Well, and it just doesn't. Miami is a college. I'm not going to say this in a bad way. Miami is a college football program, and they are, whenever they are running right, they are a top college football program. Their home stadium, their atmosphere does not feel like one. It does not feel like a Tennessee. It does not feel like a Georgia. It doesn't feel like Michigan or Ohio State. It does not feel like Eugene. Going to Miami just does not look tough. I got to be honest. The team might be tough. You might be able to play that team in a parking lot and have the same kind of experience, though, is what I'm saying. It just does not seem like
it felt. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't know. I didn't really pay attention too much. I wish I would have now. And I think a lot of it is because we've seen so many good games, and that was kind of the last game that we watched, that we got we got to see some of the rowdiest fan bases in college football. And then we pan to Miami, and it's there is a difference.
Well, and the game in Mercedes-Benz, South Carolina, Virginia Tech, to watch that intro and watch South Carolina fans, I mean, they got Sandstorm. The game has not even started yet. And they're jumping, waving the towels to Sandstorm. And it's you pan to the Miami crowd, and they're playing Candy Crush on their phone or something. It's what is going on? It was just awkward, weird. I don't know. I did not like that look for Miami. But that's all I got, Justin. I'm excited for this week. I think it's a really underrated. I said that at the very beginning. I think it's very underrated.
Yeah, I talked to you this morning about kind of, finishing up what we were going to talk about. And I was like, we might have a little shorter show or whatever. And you're like, well, we have this game, this game, this game, this game, this game. And I was like, oh, shit. Yeah, you're kind of right. We do have some good games. And I think week one really boosted a lot of these games up, because obviously if South Florida lost to Boise, you wouldn't have that game to watch. If, other teams would have lost or not looked as good, you wouldn't really care. But we have one ranked versus ranked matchup, but there's a lot of games in there that I'm kind of excited just to see what happens. Other than that, I'm kind of with you, Mason. That's all I got. Everybody just like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Try to boost us up. We're getting to football season, so the more our followers and our friends that have been watching every week, if you just like it and leave one comment, we can, get way more views, just because that puts it out there. So like and subscribe, leave a comment. Give it. I guess the comment you could leave today, like give us a team that you're most excited for. That is a very deep cut team, like a South Florida, Virginia Tech. A team like that you're not necessarily like your team. Try to give us one that's not in a Power Four conference, but if it's a lower level Power Four conference, give us that one. I mean, mine would probably be Baylor. I'm excited to just watch Baylor this year and see how they end up. So leave us a comment about what team you're most excited to be like, oh, they're playing. I want to see what they're looking like.
Yeah, guys, we appreciate it. Like he said, like and subscribe, turn on the bell notifications, and catch us Sunday, 8:30 a.m. We'll be reacting. We'll probably be wrong about everything we just said.
Yeah.
I might have to apologize to Missouri. That might be on me. But either way, we'll catch y'all Sunday. Y'all have a